it's in the Caribbean, whether it's in the Arabian Gulf, all around the world. And in Florida, which used to have in the Keys, it was one of the largest coral reef systems in the world. Not only is over 95% already dead, but they declared ecologically two of the primary species, staghorn and elkhorn corals, are effectively extinct. That's crazy. And these used to be almost like forests of these corals, and there are very few left. And so this isn't just an ecological tragedy. It is, because again, there's a quarter of all life in the ocean depends on this one ecosystem. But there's also 1 billion people around the world in 100 countries that depend on coral reefs to feed their families, to pay the bills. And then, again, a big theme here at Davos has been the value of nature. And it, as we just heard, it has value in its own right inherently, but speaking in the world of economics, $2.7 trillion generated annually by coral reefs, powering tourism economies, protecting coastlines from storms, sustaining fisheries. So as these reefs die and as the acceleration has picked up in the past few months, past couple of years, that means that we're losing swaths of wildlife and also the ability for these communities to sustain themselves. The threats that this poses to governments, to hotel chains, to insurance companies who have coastal property that is protected by these reefs or by mangrove forests. And so it's stark, it's terrifying, and it's undeniable. And it's also, I think, a rallying cry as to why we need to act right now to, again, protect these reefs, but also scale up solutions like reef restoration and put money into the ecosystems that in turn sustain all of us.
Right. I know that we've been tracking you guys for quite a while, and you recently raised more capital. It's really hard to think about hundreds of square miles of coral reef dying and then going back and growing and replanting it in a mechanical or kind of a human-oriented way. But it's kind of all we have right now, and thank God for that, right? So can you tell us a little bit about the process for how Coral Vita does coral restoration?
So our focus is setting up land-based aquaculture parks. So instead of a fish farm on land, it's a coral farm. We combine open source science with proprietary technology, where we are able to accelerate coral growth rates, grow corals in months and years instead of decades and centuries. Growing them on land also gives us the ability to control the conditions that exist, the temperature, the salinity, and the analogy we like to give is we can give corals the spa treatment, or we can take them to the gym. So we can make it the way they like it to grow fast or to reproduce, or we can mimic future ocean temperatures. We can stress harden the corals, identify which genotypes are naturally more resilient, crossbreed those together. And then 6, 12, 24 months of growth, we'll go back out and go down and basically plant the corals in and do their thing. So again, analogy is instead of planting trees for reforestation, is planting corals for reef restoration. We then are integrating this technology suite we've developed called Brain Coral, which is a AI camera-based tool that lets us basically rapidly collect and analyze key data flow throughout the whole process, so we know from when we collected them to when they were cut up and fragmented, which ones are growing faster or more resilient, so we can basically have this ledger and track everything and manage the systems. And then, as we're doing all the science, as we're doing all the work, doing this again as a business. So you sort of teased it a second ago, we last year raised our Series A investment round. It's the first ever for a coral restoration company. We're raising another round again here and looking at how we can accelerate this. Going back to those values we provide, instead of just being reliant on grants and donations, we sell restoration as a service to developers, governments, hotels. We tap into conservation financing mechanisms. Nature positive brands that are looking to fund ecosystem impact can hire us to restore the work. We license that technology out, and then we also relocate corals out of impact zones, because the thesis is that if we can actually generate revenue, as opposed to, again, the traditional approach, and it's not a knock on the NGOs or the researchers, we work with many of them and we're friends with many of them and we support their work. We need both, but also like it's a fundamentally limited system. And so in our world, particularly in places like Davos, by demonstrating revenue generation, that means we actually can fund more impact. So we're working in the Bahamas, Saudi Arabia, Dubai. We're opening up a farm in Florida this year and really trying to catalyze this restoration economy, almost treating, again, and this is coming as someone who's been a diver since I was a kid, first saw a coral reef when I was 6. You don't need to sell me on the wonder, but we need to sell others on the value, treating coral reefs as basically ecological infrastructure so that we can fund the impact we need to keep them alive for the future and navigate this crisis.
So when you really dive into the coral emergency, it is, as you mentioned, a kind of polycrisis about sea temperature rise, because the warmer the water, the more likely that the coral will bleach and die. Pollution, over like kind of exposure to humans in a way, and other factors. What would you say is, I know that the prognosis is kind of grim, but what would you say is our best hope of being able to save corals at large?
Our best hope is still to deal with those threats. It's like we need to stop deforestation and scale reforestation. We need to deal with rising temperatures, climate, pollution, overfishing, first and foremost, and at the same time, simultaneously, scale up restoration efforts around the world, fund nature, fund the communities that are on the front lines, that are relying on these reefs the most, that know them the most, that can do the work to regenerate them. And I think good storytelling also matters the most. I mean, I'm taking the call of, I guess, all environmentalists here, but I feel our community has failed the most in good storytelling, particularly when the other side not only has multi-billion-dollar budgets, but is more than happy to use the dark arts of PR to warp facts. And ultimately, human beings are storytellers. We millennia sat around campfires, and that's how we connected with each other. So how can we not only do the physical work, not only can we deploy the capital, how can we integrate local communities, but also how can we tell this story in such a way that it just clicks for people, whether they only care about it from a bottom line perspective, whether they feel it in their heart, whether it's something that they want to go experience. But I think that's one of the best ways we can cause this change, because at the end of the day, there was a report that came out, I think it's only 33 fossil fuel companies that are responsible for 50% of global emissions. So that's 33 boards, that's 33 CEOs. It doesn't require everyone in the world to change, but at the same time, if we can connect with so many more people and call on our leaders to do this, and hopefully bring those people out to the reefs to see this experience themselves, to realize that their bottom lines actually in the end are going to be impacted by it, I think that can do a tremendous amount of good for this world.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to double click a little bit on the concept of sea temperature rise and coral bleaching. We've seen incredible bleaching events recently in the Great Barrier Reef, across the south coast of Australia. You mentioned the Florida Keys. Even if we cut carbon emissions today, the lag is up to 30 years on carbon sequestration related to ocean temperature rise. I'm just wondering, do you see a path backward for stopping or slowing the rise of ocean sea level temperatures? Or is that a done deal? And if it is a done deal, how likely is it that we will even have corals, regardless of what you're doing, with the exception, I suppose, of hardening so that we find corals that can survive in warmer waters?
Well, I think it's important that I lead by saying I'm not a marine scientist. I study political science, so I'm not going to give you an informed take on sea temperatures. What I'll say is that I often describe myself as an optimistic realist. My dad actually used to work on trying to make peace in the Middle East. I think we all would have hoped he could have been more successful, but I took a lot from him and my mom too. Not only did they get me scuba certification when I was a kid, but this belief that you have to accept the reality. You can't work on making peace if you're just purely an idealist, because that will blow up in your face. You have to accept the tensions, the histories, the hurt, the illogic of things, but also you can't be a cynic, because how can you possibly make peace if you don't believe change is possible? And so looking at what we face with coral reefs and so much else in the ocean, it's bleak, it's grim, and accepting that every 1/10 of a degree that can be averted, every resilient coral that can be planted, every whale that is protected, every little action counts. And the cost of inaction is much higher than the cost of acting today. So I do believe we will have a world that still has thriving and surviving coral reefs in generations to come. And at the end of the day, it might be just that. The adage about you plant a tree for the shade of your grandkids. There's going to be a lot of coral reefs that disappear before we start seeing that recovery. But if we can do this work now, if we can work with Sylvia Earle and Hope Spots, and if we can work with big financial institutions, if we can work with local communities, and we can seed these reefs at scale so that as we get our shit together and slow down temperature rise and start reversing it, then those corals in generations will start coming back for their own sake and then for all of us that rely on them.
Well, Sam, very, very inspiring work that you're doing. Thank you for working to save corals.
Thanks.
We're going to move now to a live conversation with our partners in Miami. So I'm going to ask our team to see if we can transition to a live Zoom. I know that Sam has to go soon to his flight. So I'm going to welcome Jimena Caminos from the Reef Line for now a fireside chat. I guess it's a digital fireside chat. Hello, Jimena. We also have our friends Brandy Reddick, who's the president of the Reef Line, Raul Skrine from Build, which is the company that worked with us to design and build this building, Marcus Ryman from OMA, and Mr. Shikametsu, also from OMA. Welcome. We're really excited to announce something that we've been working on for a number of months, essentially coming from the summer when we got to meet all these incredible people. Colin Ford, I don't know if Colin's on the call, is the director of science at the Reef Line. Jimena and I and Brandy met at the UN Ocean Conference in June, and we started talking about the work of the Ocean Climate Fund. As I mentioned earlier in the morning, we are focused on 3 areas of investment, including ocean data, blue living carbon, and blue circular economy infrastructure. So I'm really happy to kick off this session where we explore the first investment from the OCF and preview a really exciting new technology. And Sam, I really hope we're going to be able to work with Coral Vita to scale and bring this to life in collaboration with you and many others around the world. I'm going to hand it over to Jimena and I suppose to Marcus. Let's go to Jimena first. Can you please introduce the work of the Reef Line? And then we will talk about this exciting new project called the Reef Tile, which we're very excited to preview, not launch. This is a kind of secret preview for you guys of the work of OMA and the Reef Line on saving coral.
Can I just say, because I'm literally running to the airport now, hi, Reef Line team. These guys are amazing. And yes, we are very much looking forward to collaborating soon. So,
thank you. Thank you. Over to Jimena.
Hi, Sam. Can you hear me, Stan?
We can hear you and we can see you.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for hosting us today. We're very grateful to you and to the Ocean Climate Fund for being our early investors in this incredible project. With us is Brandy Reddick, our executive director at Reef Line, Colin Ford, science director, Shohei Shigematsu, OMA's director of the New York office for OMA, and Marcus Raymond, the director of TVA 21. I'll kick it off with a very high-level introduction of what is Reef Line, and then Colin will speak a little bit about the science, Brandy about our impact, Shohei will explain the tile that he fabulously designed, and Marcus will give an overall concept of why we're doing what we're doing today. So, very timely that we had Sam before because, Reef Line is sitting on top of the Florida Reef Tract, which is the 3rd largest reef system in the world. And like Sam perfectly explained, it's under a big threat. So Reef Line is Miami's underwater sculpture park and hybrid reef. It's located 700 feet offshore and 20 feet deep, visible from above. And it's a symbol of hope, cross-disciplinary collaboration, and of course, high-level climate tech, what we call blue urban infrastructure. So we're a cultural ecological corridor. We're a new typology. We are a linear park that at the same time functions as a hybrid reef. Therefore, what we're doing is we're enhancing marine habitat, but we're using art as a catalyst to convey a powerful message and tap into people's sentiments to wake everybody up and show, the dreary panorama, but at the same time that there are possible solutions. So our Reef Line is a living system in permanent transformation. We pride ourselves on cross-disciplinary collaboration. We work with the best people in the world, and we assemble teams of stakeholders that come from very different sectors. So we combine, Reef Line is a big community of nonprofit organizations. We work with the City of Miami Beach, the City of Miami, academic institutions, of course, the community and scientists, and of course, the artists. We are partially funded by a $5 million GEO bond, which is a government-backed bond where the citizens of Miami Beach voted to tax themselves to make our project happen. Therefore, you realize 67% yes, people know what's happening. So it's up to us and up to the public sector to act upon it and support us, right? So our pillars are art as a catalyst, community and ocean literacy, ocean justice, coastal policy and governance, science and marine habitat enhancement, and as I said before, cross-disciplinary collaboration. So we like to think that Reefline is also a symbol for coastal infrastructure and cities that are facing sea level rise. Miami Beach is ground zero sea level rise. So we like to say that just like New York has its High Line and Miami, the underlying Reefline now has, Miami Beach now has the Reefline, which is a 7-mile long, $40 million project that serves as coastal resiliency and also helps enhance what once was there, which was this incredible reef that we had. And Shohei will tap a little bit more into that because Shohei is our master planner. So that's where Reefline is in this little, 2 dots. That's our first deployment. And these are our phases. Phase 1 is Concrete Coral by artist Leander Ehrlich, and phase 2 and 3 is a Miami Reef Star by Carlos Betancourt and Alberto Latorre, Heart of Oceanos by Petrox Sesti, and in phase 3 we have the OMA modules and the Blue Arts Award. So just a beautiful glimpse into our underwater traffic jam and what it entails to deploy hybrid reefs. These are giant barges that are deploying 10,000 10 ton to 40,000 pounds structures that are right now thriving and teaming up with life. We have reports that Brandy will tap into on how the marine life has been growing by the hundreds weekly. So this is what they look like now. This is last week. They're fabulous. These are our coral logs. We're doing a little bit what Sam was saying, outplanting coral. We have our own laboratory. And this is Dr. Sylvia Earle planting our first brain corals with University of Miami Rescue a Reef and Professor Diego Lirman. I'll go fast because I don't want to take anybody's time. These are images of what's to come. We use very high level technology, the best materials we can find. Some of our structures are casted and some of them are 3D printed. We test structures in the Sustain tank in and we are here because we think that we have solutions, man-made solutions to a man-made problem. So what we've decided is to cast a path ahead and to dive deep into scaling these solutions and making them affordable, not only for cities, but also for people. Therefore, that's why we created this incredible tile that we will speak about in a minute. So I leave the floor to our incredible Director of Science, Colin Ford, and I'll stop sharing.
Great. Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you for having us. Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Colin Ford. I am the Director of Science for the Reefline, and I have been growing corals for more than 25 years, studied at the University of Miami. This is our coral lab that we have built for the Reefline, where we're currently growing over 2,200 soft corals that will be outplanted. Miami is for better, for worse, a harbinger of things to come around the world, in particular with its coral reefs. Miami was the home of the first major coral bleaching die-off in 1977, and unfortunately, we've seen a tremendous decline ever since. But what gives me hope is that where we have corals in Miami, they're in the most surprising places. And so I've spent probably more time than anybody swimming around the seawalls in this urban infrastructure in Miami. I have an underwater camera called the Coral City Camera located at the port of Miami, and we have just such a surprising diversity of corals that are clearly very resilient. And so Miami is really like this living laboratory where, for better, for worse, it's on the front lines of climate change, and it's really to be a coral in Miami is like being at the gym, like Sam said. And so, these corals that are living in these habitats are very resilient. And so, my job as a scientist and what we're doing in the coral lab with the reef line is finding these really resilient strains of corals, planting them out onto the structures. But we're also really interested in the corals that are living on these seawalls. And Miami is a place that has some of the highest wealth and the highest real estate values. And there's a direct correlation between the health and the biodiversity of the water and the value of that real estate. And so we're here today to talk about not only the reef line, but our focus on how can we utilize this valuable real estate? How can we utilize these seawalls that are there as living laboratories to be able to grow resilient corals, to be able to grow sponges and things that are filter feeders? Nature often has these solutions available to us if we know how to work with them. And that's one of the most amazing things about the reef line is it really is an intersection of design and art and science, and beauty to be able to try and overcome these these difficult conditions that we're encountering in the ocean. But Miami is a place where we're able to sort of find some of these solutions and do it elegantly. We've been seeing just in the 2 months that we've had the reef line underwater an increase in the amount of fish. We're out monitoring the corals. They're doing great. There used to be a coral reef where the reef line exists. To sort of parallel what Sam was saying. Unfortunately, the reef line shouldn't exist, but it needs to exist because we've lost this coral reef that was buried under the sand because of how important the value of the beach in Miami is. But it came at the expense of the natural reef, and Reefline is doing its part to be able to replace this habitat, but do it in a way that is generating ecotourism.
Okay, Brandy, do you want to take it on?
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Colin.
Good morning. I'm Brandy Reddick, Executive Director for the Reef Line. I just want to talk a little bit about the impact we've had in 2025. One of our major impacts is our global reach. We've reached 13.8 billion single media impressions, which is approximately $126 million in paid advertising value. And our goal with this is to translate this into economic impact. For example, the John Pennycamp Coral Reef, just directly south of us, generates about $56 million in local economic impact and translates into 761 jobs in the area. And we're working very closely with the city and the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau to translate these numbers into conscious tourism and economic impact for our community as well. Our educational impact, we partner with a program called Dream and Green, where we reach 10,000 students in 125 Miami-Dade County public schools, 90% of those of which are Title I. 80% of the children in our community have never been to the beach, and our goal is to get our community to the beach and also to learn how to swim. Next, Willie. Education, also with Rescue Our Reef, which Colin talked a little bit about. We partner with the University of Miami. We've had our first coral outplanting about a month ago with Dr. Sylvia Earle. And of course, we have education in universities and lectures. Jimena gave a talk early last year with Harvard Graduate School of Design and Northeastern University, which are educational partners, as well as Nova Southeastern University here in South Florida. And of course, our partnerships. Refund is a public-private development. And we have major partners in the city of Miami Beach, the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, as well as a host of other private institutions and supporters. So now, Sho, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. My name is Shohei Shigematsu. I'm an architect and a master planner of Reef Line. I would like to share the screen and start to present. Just as a brief introduction of firm OMA, based in New York, doing a diverse range of projects from high-rise to museum. The bottom left is the Faena Forum that I worked with Jimena, which still is in Miami Beach. The museums are involved in art projects. The new museum is opening soon in March in New York. I'm also doing diverse range of projects like fashion. That's why I'm here in Paris right now. And most importantly, a lot of collaborations with artists and other domain, and also working with resiliency. This is a Hoboken post-Sandy master plan to create a resiliency as a whole city for the same level of hurricane. What I'm trying to say is that as an architect, it's very important to work with different specialists. And here in Reefline, of course, we have to work with even more diverse range of domains and specialists that I never actually worked with before. That's also a unique, very unique opportunity and unique constellation. As Colin said, ironically, Miami Beach expansion of the artificial beach had extinguished or basically demolished the reefs that was there, but of course it thrived the tourism, and that's where we are now. But as you know, because of the sea level rise, it's eroding the beach again. So the need of something like Reefline actually is very much needed. As an architect, this is, of course, the first time to do a master plan in underwater. What that means is it was very unknown, but we worked together with Jimena and the team and all the specialists to really tackle a master planning such an ambitious project. Of course, knowing the topography is very important. This is a topography map of the ocean. Of course, it's always related to the land and the shore, not just ocean. So we mapped, of course, the guardhouse, which of course situated in a rhythmic way along the entire beach. Also the public parks that also can have a relationship to where the deployments will be. So we mapped all these and then started to identify the sites with marine biologists and Colin and everyone to actually create pockets that can have these art deployments, sculpture deployments. Yeah, and it's going until like 10th locations now. And the first one, as Jimena said, will have a couple of art sculptures, but as well, this is the kind of area. But as well, we need to create this barrier to basically secure the deployment of art, but also create a kind of continuous infrastructure to block the kind of underwater current and tide to protect the art, but also to inhabit and enhance the coral reef habitat. So this is our base module. This is in progress. This is a kind of ongoing process that we are doing with Jimena. So this is the base module that we designed to have a porosity, but also have enough surface for the reef to grow. And we're calling it almost like a topiary, like a French garden. As I said, the water, shore, land is all connected. It's not just water. So we are doing the signage on the land and the shore, and also floating device to basically create visible signage where the deployments are. Now I'm going to go into the reef tiles, which of course is ongoing process, but we are very excited to present you the preliminary directions. The reef line, I think the reef line and OMA is going to be a kind of blue ecological infrastructure. As Jimena said, this is a very important text, so I will read a little bit more carefully. So reef tile turns flat seawalls into living infrastructure. So I think that there are many opportunities at the kind of sea walls that is kind of preventing the sea level rise, which is of course flat, but the current seawalls are not really facilitating the reef growth. So 85% of oyster reefs and a single adult oyster can filter up to 190 liters of water per day. So basically these walls can facilitate even a stronger growth, which, as you know, in Florida, they're making these concrete walls, but not in a kind of creative way. The reef tiles, such as this, that kind of facilitates the growth of coral, already exist with this kind of hexagonal. These are some examples that are existing, which is a great examples, and I'm not trying to compete with them or anything, but I think these are the results, and I think it's really nice that it could go to the horizontal surfaces or this kind of vertical surfaces on the wall at the edge of the water and land. And I think these languages are for us maybe a little bit too literal, as if the coral actually were pasted onto the wall and have this kind of different depth and different textures. So these are examples. But maybe it was, for us, it was a little bit too nature inspired and literal. So we started to look at, maybe in a very architect's way, a different way of abstractions. We present you two options. One is like this kind of shape, scallop shape, and one is interlocking shape. This is inspired by branching coral growth, as Colin explained, almost like a fractal shape, which resemble this kind of Art Deco tiles and shapes or fish scales. So we thought, given the kind of Art Deco history of Miami Beach, it would be great to kind of have cultural relationship and have this kind of reef-inspired branches, as well as the depth and textures to facilitate inhabitation. And then this can actually create different patterns and different, not too much of an industrial look as the hexagonal panels would do. So it could create a little bit more organic and smooth and interesting tiling possibilities. The other option is nature inspired, but more mathematically calibrated, like Escher, maybe 2D, but something more three-dimensional at the same time, like tetrapod, but in 2D. So bit more architectural, bit more less kind of literal organic pattern that can also have different way of interlocking and creating this kind of almost like three-dimensional looking pattern, although it's it's a tile. Where we are at now is we are developing all these together. Of course, these are not final at all, but we're design development, prototyping, testing, and production. So we are now, of course, at the design development, but at the same time, creating prototype and testing. And eventually, of course, we will go into production, and hopefully will facilitate even further the kind of inhabitation of the coral reefs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joel. Marcus, do you want to go on?
I guess I go on and close this very briefly by saying my name is Marcus Ryman. I'm the director of TBA 21, which is a contemporary art and advocacy organization, as well as the chair of the board of the Alligator Head Foundation, which is a marine conservation organization which is science-based but community-focused. So just giving you a little outlook in what is coming next after the tile. So as you can see, this is the coming together of a group of people that very much believe in the transformative power of culture, but totally understand the necessity to do more, to do more, to be able to actually nurture and foster this world that Sam was describing earlier, where we have thriving coral reefs, where we have healthy ecosystems and so on, even though the outlook looks rather bleak. But what we're doing next is actually a spin-off of what has been described, and what we're doing is we're standing up a regenerative infrastructure venture that is not looking like Sam said, as a for-profit restoration, but we're actually turning coastal defense infrastructure into living, intelligent ecosystems. So we're coming from the other way. Currently, we see that most coastal infrastructure is dead concrete that is ecologically harmful and data blind. And what we're planning on doing, or what we're going to do, we're currently looking at 2 test sites, is to create living infrastructure, right? Where the regeneration is enhanced through not only the design and the texture of the tiles and seawalls, but also through bioacoustic enhancement and recruitment, which means through playing the sounds of healthy ecosystems back to degrading ecosystems, science shows that there is a 7 times faster recruitment of repopulation of these infrastructures. But not only that, we're going to enhance these infrastructures, these tiles, these skins with sensors, with a sensor and a data platform, so to create neural suites, which means that this area, which is usually data blind, which are these coastal zones that are high impact, high churn, very difficult to measure, we're turning them into really smart zones, which means that not only now can you assess the health of your infrastructure, but also the health of the ecosystem. And a few years down the line, you can talk about the financialization of the growing ecosystem, so meaning biodiversity bonds and so on. We're currently looking at 2 flagship pilots, as I said. This is a mission-locked, IP-driven company that we're creating, where 30% or up to 30% is actually has a conservation mandate and a golden vote for or to protect the ecological and ethical integrity of the operations. So if anybody wants to talk about this, we're finding ourselves in a phase where everybody knows that hurricanes are increasing not only the frequency but also the strengths of them. The same is true for typhoons and all other forms of storms. The sea levels are rising. So we're finding ourselves at a moment in time where we will see an unprecedented investment into coastal defense and coastal infrastructure. And instead of making this dead, we're going to make it living, smart, and safe as well. So if anybody is interested, please come and find us. We're happy to talk about this more.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you so much, all the team, and thank you, Stan. I believe we've finished the presentation.
Thank you. I want to see if Raul from Build is still on the call.
Yes, Dan. Hi. How are you?
There we go, Raul. So
Hi,
we're gonna go over to Build now, and then I think we're gonna open it up to a Q&A for everyone. Because first of all, Jimena, I want to thank you and Marcus and Brandy and the team from OMA for this incredible work. We're really thrilled to be involved with it, and it really does present the actual dream of ocean investment for conservation as well as for financial return. And so this fits perfectly into that third bucket that I talked about for the Ocean Climate Fund. It also fits neatly with the work of Build, which is our architectural partner that actually designed with me the building that we're in now. And we kind of think of the reef line being able to intersect with the ICON regenerative construction system in the future. So you can imagine, at some point in the future, you could have reef tiles along the shoreline and then coming into an ICON type of structure. So Raul, I'd love you to just share a little bit about our vision for the work that we're doing, and just a brief word about Care.Hub, so that we can understand the connection between on-surface architecture with the work of this incredible seawall regeneration from the reef line.
Thank you so much, Stan. Hello, everybody. I'm Raul Skrine, co-founder of Build. I think the connection to the building you're all sitting in is the modularity of it. I think with a lot of care into one little piece, a bigger piece can be put together. And I think it's a great opportunity to talk about what can happen above ground and above sea level. Thank you, Stan, for inviting us to participate together with TVA in Care.Hub, which is basically putting this little module, one of the facade modules that you see outside, the window modules that you see, everything created from sustainable timber, into a very big microcosm, like a over sea level reef for people. and create whole villages of it, and create life where there is none right now. So thank you so much, Stan, for making all of this happen.
For those of you who may be interested, you can visit hubicon.co and hear about care.hub. The idea is that what are here in Davos offices could be expanded out to become studios, kind of overlooking this common rotunda for shared services for elder people. There are over 1 billion people who will be entering the age category of 60 to 80 in the next 10 years. And affordable housing is definitely a concern for many of them. But we really do think about this work that OMA and Reefline have done for these tiles, connecting to the work of the Ocean Climate Fund, but then also, potentially linking in to the construction system for the icon. So this could become a component of icons in the future, where you would extend the seawall into the above-ground construction. Jimena, I'd love to just ask you a question. We have seen incredibly fast progress with the reef tile. We began talking to you about it, and we know that you were working on it already for some time. But can you give us a roadmap for 2026 and what your needs are so that we can convey that to some of the leaders that are here in Davos? What would be your wish list for making the reef tile accelerate its progress?
Thank you, Stan, for that question. I would really love for the Reefline tile to be adopted in the Caribbean first, kind of as a testing site. Where we have a meeting today with Eric Carpenter, the city manager for Miami Beach. The city of Miami Beach has been incredibly supportive of Reefline, and we are their premier ocean partner. So we are seeing. Shohei yesterday said, from Art Deco to Art Eco. And really, we want to propose this transition to the city. So what I would love is for the reef tile to be adopted, to be scalable and affordable. So it's adopted not only locally, but also, in the world. And we're happy to design site-specific motifs for each different culture. Reefline is being invited all the time to have, a Reefline in Dubai, a Reefline in Palm Beach, a Reefline in Maldives. We get invitations. And I see the reef tile as a small satellite, as a mini, Reefline ambassador that can go and support other ecosystems in need. So what we're looking for, and this is what we're discussing at depth with Marcus, is how we will structure this company. This is very early conversations. We know it's a nonprofit for profit, where 30% of the revenue will go to impact sustainability and mainly Reefline and Alligator Head in Jamaica. So we are looking, like you both generally, the Ocean Fund did, for early investment, but we're on very early stages. So that's our idea, to create a beautiful, scalable, durable, functional tile that will help our marine systems thrive.
Well, I have some good news for you, Jimena, because at our opening partnership dinner on Sunday night, the Premier of Bermuda, David Burt, saw the reef tiles, because we had them here. And, thank you to Shigemitsu-san and the team at OMA for working so hard to get these profiles made for us here to show in Davos in real life, because people have been obsessed with them all week. But I'm happy to tell you that the Premier of Bermuda has committed. They've asked to take 2 back to share with their government infrastructure work, and they've verbally committed to they want to be the first place to host an installation of the reef tile on seawalls that are already existing in Bermuda. So we're going to begin a conversation with them and figure out ways to try to bring it as a test and a trial. We have a couple of ideas on location already, and they're very excited about it. So I think that this is the power of convening, and I know that you guys had to work very hard to have all of this ready for us here and for the Ocean Climate Fund in Davos, but I think it's already paying dividends in terms of interest and excitement from the people who are up here on the mountains. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Stan. That's amazing news. Congratulations. Well, we are already making our dreams happen.
Thank you. I want to ask Brandy, on the impact report that you said, I was shocked to see the new images, because I was just with you guys at our Basel in Miami, and we had the opportunity to go out with you and to dive. And one of the most incredible things about that was how much marine life has already grown around the existing reef line. And seeing those latest photos was incredible because it's literally much more than it was just a few weeks ago in early December. But the thing I'd like to talk to you about briefly is your partnership with BMW, because it really highlights how incredibly diverse companies can partner with the reef line. So can you tell us about your work with BMW and the results from that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Stan. So our partnership with BMW is through BMW and SEPA boards as part of the BMW lifestyle brand. And what we've created with SEPA boards and BMW is an electric stand-up paddleboard that's Reefline branded. So it is the world's first electric stand-up paddleboard. It's incredibly fun. You can travel to the reef line in less than 3 minutes from the shoreline on the stand-up paddleboard. And also, we're very grateful for BMW's commitment in revenue shares. So for each Reefline paddleboard that's sold, 30% of the profits go directly to Reefline to help us construct additional hybrid reefs, support our coral lab. And along with those, Stan, I'd like to also emphasize that about 80% of all dollars from the Reefline go directly to supporting our underwater efforts, whether it's through the Coral Lab or through our building coral reefs. And we're very grateful for BMW for this partnership and would encourage more industries for these kind of creative partnerships.
Great. Well, I think that serves a really wonderful model to think about unique ways to be able to engage with the reef line. From the perspective of the Ocean Climate Fund, this is our first official investment, and it just is so exciting because it combines everything that you could dream of for a commercial project that has potential for return. We'll be showing the reef tiles to JLL this week and to other development companies. We're talking to the Saudis about it as well. And there are many customers potentially for the reef tile. And the more customers who want to bring living biodiversity to seawalls, that certainly will benefit the ocean, which is our main mission with the Ocean Climate Fund. But it's also going to generate additional capital to help you guys do your important work on the nonprofit side. So it really does, I think, point a way for all of us working on nature-based solutions here as an example of how you can really be innovative, be beautiful because of this art that you guys install with it, and to be creative. So let this be an example for the potential and the opportunity that exists for all of us. I want to thank all of you for getting up so early in the morning. For those of you in Miami, Shigemetsu-san in Paris, I hope you're enjoying that gray weather. And we would love to be doing more with OMA and to share, I think, the Build OMA conversation, to think about helping us scale those care homes to billions of people around the world is something we'd love to do. Maybe we could put them over the water with foundations that are living reefs.
Yeah, let's combine everything.
All the visions. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Hub Culture Icon, part of the Hub Culture Davos Leadership Campus, Davos 2026. For those of you online watching us, find more on Instagram at Hub Culture and youtube.com/hubculture. Signing off for lunch now. We'll be back for a workshop in just a little while.
some joy upon my face. Oh, sunshine in an empty place. Take me to turn to, and babe, I'll make you stay. Oh, I can ease you of your pain. Feel you give me love again. Round and round we go. Each time I hear you say, this is the rhythm of the night. The night. Oh yeah. The rhythm of the night. This is the rhythm of my life. My life. Oh yeah. The rhythm of my life. Won't you teach me how to love? There'll be nothing left for me to learn. Think of me hard and let me hold your hand. I don't wanna face the world empty. Please think again, I'm on my knees. Sing that song to me, no reason to repent. This is the rhythm of the night. The night. Oh yeah. The rhythm of the night. This is the rhythm of my life. My life. Oh yeah. The rhythm of my life. The world was on fire, no one could save me but you. It's strange what desire will make foolish people do. I never dreamed that I'd meet somebody like you. And I never dreamed that I'd lose somebody like you. No, I don't wanna fall in love. No, I she's walking through the glass with a circus mind that's running round. Butterflies and zebras and moonbeams and fairy tales. That's all she ever thinks about. Riding with the wind. When I'm sad, she comes to me with 1,000 smiles. She gives to me free. So alright, she sings, it's alright. Take anything you want from me. Anything. My tea's gone cold, I'm wondering why I got out of bed at all. Morning rain clouds up my window, and I can't see